Hey everybody, I want to talk about a product and platform that I absolutely love and our latest sponsor, Interseller, the prospecting and outreach platform of choice for recruiters and sellers. Whether you're doubling down on business development or recruiting talent, Interseller does all the heavy lifting of finding contact data, automating the email and follow-up process, and syncs all that rich data into 20 plus CRM and ATS platforms. Reach out now and get going on a 2-week free trial and let them know you heard about it from Adam on the podcast today. Check out the link on the website. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast, where I bring you the best and the brightest from the world of business, entrepreneurship, and life to help you harness your own inner tenacity and drive your career forward. My guest today on the podcast is Malik Addunni. He is a global connector, music maven, and co-founder of Gold Credentials, a platform that creates, collaborates with, and activates artists to work with brands to engage their fans. He has worked in the music industry for over 20 years as a global tour manager and event producer at massive events like Coachella. And Malik has worked with tons of amazing talent in the house EDM scene, including Sophie Tucker, Nora En Pure, and the Late Avicii. And he serves on the board for Beneath the Waves, a nonprofit research institute that focuses on oceans and shark conservations and has integrated NFT art into their efforts. We'll touch on all that. And he is a true global citizen, having lived in London, Cape Town, Sydney, and even Japan, where he taught English in Osaka. And he considers himself a global ambassador, having traveled to 44 countries. Is that accurate? 44? Have we added to that?
Actually, no, 46.
46. And now he could call himself an author. Thankful to have been able to create a book, Malik's Magic African Alphabet Hat, alongside his mother in honor of his father. And it's a tribute to his father and how traveling has helped him create a universal family around the world. And we'll certainly talk about that. Malik is a friend and someone who I've known for a while, and I deeply admire his success, passion, and dedication to being an incredible human. I'm honored and excited to have him on. Malik, finally, we did it. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Adam. I really appreciate this opportunity. As we said, is that, we've been friends for a long time. When I lived in New York to still moving to San Francisco, that we've still had a bond, and I'm glad to be and appreciate me having this opportunity to be on your podcast.
And I'm excited to have you. And Malik's journey is really fascinating. There's a lot of elements here, and you're a bit of a Swiss Army knife with an incredible background. You have an incredible skill set. You've been there, done that, seen that. Some stories that we're going to leave off of the podcast so we could share at a later time some of the things that you've seen around the world, especially in the music industry. But I think it's really important to introduce my audience to who you are and your upbringing. I'd love if you could share a little bit about your origin. What are your roots, man?
Yeah. So I actually grew up in Los Angeles, in an area called Crenshaw. Now it's basically like becoming like a new hot spot for people moving there, the gentrification. I was bused to school from my neighborhood to the San Fernando Valley because the education system was better there from that time of period. And I grew up in Los Angeles. I was a theater major in college. Actually, I went to LA County High School for the Arts, for Performing Arts High School. It's like the Fame School of the West Coast.
Right.
Very fortunate to have so many different peers to see them excel in their arts. Candy Wiley went to my school. Robert Vargas went to my school. And to see these other artists that are just doing the things in their craft has made me just very happy that I had that opportunity to be able to go to such a great high school. UCLA has always been a big part of my life too. I've been very fortunate to not only go to UCLA and be a part of the theater program, but as I expanded from leaving theater, I still participate with UCLA. I was very fortunate last year for my company to be chosen as top 100 businesses for UCLA, which is something that I'm very proud of, Gold Credentials.
I have a new soundboard here. It's just funnier, man.
I like it. But yeah, I just feel very fortunate that, from where I grew up, and the opportunities that I didn't have were created from just being able to understand. From my mother said, there's good people and bad people. And it's just more or less about right now. Sometimes it seems that good people and bad people, what about teaching people about good decisions and bad decisions? So just really believe in humans and mankind, or just humans in general, and just want to focus on what we can do together collectively.
I love it. And it's an incredible background that really shapes you. Let's talk about mom and dad. Let's talk a little bit about where they came from and how they helped shape who you are today.
Yeah, my dad, he was from Texas. My mom was from New York. Well, she's from New York. If you said she was from New York, she'll just tell you off. She's like, no, she's a New Yorker through and through, even though she's been in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's something that sticks with us with her forever. I would never change that.
No, she's been in Los Angeles for 47 years. No, she's been there for 49 years, and
But she's a New Yorker.
she's a New Yorker. So I'm always a New Yorker. She's 5'6'4" Livingston, so she's a New Yorker.
And your dad? How did
my dad?
Let's talk about your dad for a moment here, because I think there's a lot of thematics and storylines as we kind of unpack and peel back the layers of your onion. Tell us a little bit about your dad and how he's influenced you.
My dad influenced me in a lot of ways. I think my parents were older when they met, and they had me and my younger sister. And the one thing I learned from my father is that primarily they're part of the silent generation. So it was kind of like in regards to the relationship of being able to talk with him or understand things were a little different, because the silent generation, they were just completely like, okay, got your homework, here's your food. It's pretty much just kind of the way it is, because that's the thing. They were born either during after World War II, the Great Depression, and then basically like just to be able to have life and to be able to live and to keep going forward is what he instilled in me. My father, he taught me a lot of things in regards to just kind of understanding about people and life, and also the arts. Like, he really loved music. He actually worked for Amtrak for a long period of time. So that's how our family were able to travel across to the East Coast to see other family members. So I remember growing up as a kid, my mom actually would contact the school and tell the school that we're going away for 10 days. And what we would do is create journals while we were traveling across the country. That. So it's something very special.
It's really interesting to look back and see how all those family activities and all those pieces that infuse you brought you where you are today, because you're a connector, you're a collaborator, you're a documentarian, you capture memories and you connect folks. What was that? Do you remember, like, have you done the full Amtrak coast to coast?
Yeah, actually, I've done it several times. It was
literally like?
I tell you, as a kid, it was such an amazing experience, because I remember the first time I went back east, I actually took an airplane. I was 6 years old, and my mom actually said to me that when she took me to the gate when you're a young kid and you're traveling, they give you to the airline stewardess, and she just said, I completely was just very excited and was like, bye, Mom, and flew to Washington, D.C. On the train trips, it was me, my mom, and my sister, Malikia. And, it was one of those things is that, at that age of being like 7 or 8 years old, it took 2 days to get to Chicago. We would stop through Albuquerque. It was the Southwest Chief. I remember meeting some friends and, just being able to kind of see how it was that eventually in the future I'd go to Europe, and then train travel, like traveling on train, is something that everyone does. It's much different. It's just something that everyone is used to. And it's very efficient and very what it is. And it seems like here in America with Amtrak, it works really well on the East Coast, like getting from Washington, D.C. up to Boston. But, we can't figure out the real good kind of train routes from Los Angeles to San Francisco yet.
The north to south line they have it pretty down packed. I mean, it's great to see that they're thinking and making moves to investing in the high speed rail. But I want to get back to your roots, specifically theater, performance, music. It seems like music was kind of always in your house and in your blood. What was your first taste into house music? I'd love to hear everyone's journey into the house music scene. What was your first taste?
I would say it was, I remember like going to a friend's house in college. Like, they had a party and then we were hanging out at UCLA. And one of the groups that made me really into dance music was Daft Punk. I mean, Around the World was probably the first song that really kind of touched me in regards to, before I even traveled, it was just Around the World. And actually there's some funny memes saying like people listening to his song is Around the World. It says it like, 85 times, but it was more or less just kind of has that like disco funk part to it, which I think that's the whole thing for me. And in regards to just kind of like it's more or less is that groove and that vibe, and everyone still looks up to Daft Punk in regards to that. One of my favorite songs is "Music Sounds Better with You," and I have to say that, like, I didn't know for the first 10 years that was part of Daft Punk, and it's just one of those things that, like, was Stardust, but it's just kind of one of those things that when I found it out, it all kind of made sense on that front.
And how did you break into the music space from a business perspective? Who was the first artist that you worked with? What was your entree into the world?
My entree with the world is I worked for a startup company called Gorilla Guide. This is in the late 90s, 99, 2000.
Oh, we're old now. Jeez.
Yeah, it was a website for backpackers. And what we did is that we were going around to, like, the best pensions, like basically like before Airbnb, like basically what we did is we went to all the tours, bars, nightclubs, and we gave them like a free web page. The only situation back then in 2000 was there was no kind of revenue stream set up for it. So also it was like when you're traveling around as a backpacker, you only had like I only had a small budget. So as regards to like going to an internet cafe and spending $7 for an hour, or just going in there and just putting in an email to make sure that I was safe. I mean, actually, I sent fax messages once before, but
now we're dating ourselves. Right.
Oh well, I'm 40 great, and I'm happy with that.
It's funny. We're the same age, man. It's like, damn, like we're not. We still play like kids, right? We still have that child, that playful mindset, which I think is critical there. So you're working with this company, and how does it lead to the house music world?
I led to the house music world. Actually, Bill Brewster, who wrote "Last Night at DJ Saved My Life," I actually booked him for an event that we had in San Sebastian. I didn't even know where San Sebastian was growing up, and we were in San Sebastian, and it's like one of my favorite places I've ever been to. Most people know about Bilbao. Most people know about Pamplona, but just being able to be in San Sebastian and booking Bill Brewster for an event was great. What we did is we had a party at this place called Bataplan, and we had all these backpackers. And the one caveat is that a lot of people want to go to the running of the bulls in the morning. And my company, what we did is we ended up like booking tour buses, and we ended up getting people to go from the event going to Pamplona in the morning, which is something that a lot of people took advantage of the opportunity not to have to either sleep there the night before or figure out how to get there. But it was something that was a great experience overall.
Right. So who was the first artist that gave you that shot to work with them from a tour managed perspective?
That first artist on the tour managing perspective, there's different things. I mean, my first tour managing gig was with Sander Van Doorn, a good friend of mine, Jay Pigeon, who runs Purple Wall. He's the manager for Claptone, also a bunch of other big artists. He's Vintage Culture. He's just really someone that I've known over the last decade or so that has really kind of inspired me to see that when I first got offered the tour managing gig, because it's more you're an extension of management. And at that time, Sander, I had the opportunity to work with him. He's from he's from Eindhoven, and to be able to work with an artist like that and just kind of be a part of the scene. This is all still like pre-social media in some senses, but there
was a much different scene. I mean, let's call it what it was with the house music scene. That, and I say this all the time, and I think you would agree. Like, camera phones fucked it up, man. Right, the whole cell phone. Like we were able to live and really step outside and truly be ourselves and do and feel and dance without everything having to be on camera, or even the fear of someone documenting us when we're trying to have our private fun moments with our friends. It was a different world. It changed it all. What are your thoughts on the camera phone? I mean, yes, I mean the other side of it too, right? From a business perspective, social media, sharing, introducing people to new music and artists and events. That's one side of the coin for sure.
I would say that, like, in regards to that, is that, you have artists like Lane 8, who works for the company Yonder, where you take your cell phones and you put them away, or some clubs in Europe, they put a sticker over your phone to make sure that it's covered. As a tour manager, one of the new things, usually people have signs, but now people take out their phones and have messages. So when I've been tour managing, I've had to try to get people to put their phones away. However, it's interesting, actually, Sophie from Sophie Tucker had put up a post the other day about saying is that actually she can't even see those phones, like it's squinting. So it's one of the things that, like, you want to have people have those moments. But I think also in regards to it, it's just, it's a new generation. It's a new way that people are. I mean, people don't ask for autographs; they ask for selfies. So it's just a different way that everyone's being with technology the way it is.
So listen, I'm sure you have crazy stories from being on the other side of the booth. But what's a moment of connection, like one of those moments of connection between a fan and an artist that you saw firsthand, something that really sticks out in your mind?
There are so many. I think I would say is primarily one of them would be is just working with Sophie Tucker last summer in regards to just kind of the way they are with their fans. It's just primarily no matter where in the world. We did 10 shows last summer. We were in Romania, we were Barcelona and Tomorrowland, and just the energy and vibe of those two and the whole team is something that I found very special, because I think in regards to it, that you could really see that they're very passionate about the people and their fans, and also just very humble. And then after that tour, they went back to New York, and their song Summer New York was the US Open theme song, and just very happy to see the progress and what they've been doing. We met 8 years ago when I was working with Nora and Pure at Buku Festival in New Orleans, and we've kept the friendship and also working relationship since then.
Yeah, they're absolutely awesome. We're actually going to go see them this weekend at Governor's Ball, so excited to check them out. And definitely check out Sophie Tucker if you guys are unfamiliar. My wife's absolute favorite group out there. Let's talk about somebody near and dear to your heart, if you don't mind, the late Avicii, and someone that you work with closely, someone that you hold dear from as a friend. I'd love if you could just share something that you learned from him, from your time with him, that you think about all the time and apply to your life today.
Exploration. I think is that when I worked with him, when we first started working together, he was 20 years old. We were playing in front of 300 people. We actually did a show in Haiti. It was like a year or so after the earthquake. And just going to Haiti, I was like, I can't believe I'm going to Haiti on a DJ tour with Tim. And he just loved exploration. He just loved just to travel in the sense of going to new places. In regards to everything that we went through on the work side, is because we only worked together for the first couple of years, and we still kept in touch. And it's one of the things that it took me a long time after his passing to really kind of had that grieving moment. It actually happened during the pandemic. Since then, I've been able to listen to his music and appreciate what he has done for everybody in terms of a lot of people, but also for me, just very grateful for having the opportunity to work with him.
Certainly a special human and a very special entertainer. So travel. I mean, this is something that's a theme. You have been all around the world. You've experienced different cultures. Do you have a favorite place that you've been?
San Sebastian still is on the top of my list. Yeah, I would say is that when you're 25 years old and we didn't have phones, even with the internet, I just didn't have any idea where I was in regards to understanding the history that San Sebastian has. It's Basque culture, still part of Spain, and if you go across to France, it's Biarritz, and it's more or less it's just the food, the people, the vibe. I mean, it's just something that's very something that I never thought. It's one of those places that before the internet that I was able to find that I find that's still very special to my heart.
I'm pretty sure that Bourdain did a special on San Sebastian. I'm pretty sure I watched that one a number of years back. I'm going to have to dig that one up. What's next on your list? What's someplace you've been dreaming to go to that you haven't?
I've been thinking about that. I really would like to go down to Argentina. I've never been down there. I've not really spent a lot of time in Eastern Europe. There's some places I'd like to go check out, but primarily I would say eventually getting down to Argentina would be something that I would like to do.
A core theme throughout your life and throughout your story is really relationships. And I want to talk about the power of relationships. And love if you could shed some light on how you approach long-term relationships, short-term relationships, and what advice you give people out there that might be struggling. They're having a problem connecting.
I would say that the one thing that the pandemic taught me was just that primarily I went from a 0 to 1,000, always on the road, pretty much just always being around people. And what the pandemic taught me in regards to understanding with myself is to also focus on my own energy as well. And I think that what's happened now is that since we're moving into the new normal, is that things have just gotten faster. I also feel that, like, in regards to before, when you meet people, some people are just like, oh, hey, how are you? And as I got older, it's just sometimes you do forget. Sometimes you just need to make sure that you can be able to tell someone, can you remind me where we met? And some people get offended and some people don't, but I think I'd rather be honest about it rather than sitting there. And, one of the things that a lot of people do is, if you're with someone, it's like, if I can't remember this person's name, I'm going to introduce you to them and say your name and that kind of thing. But I think it's just being really more transparent about your relationships with people. I think it's also the thing is that we all have a lot of relationships with people that you've never really met just online. And it's more or less about just kind of, if you don't remember, it's okay to ask when or where and just be kind of honest about it rather than just not.
People are forgiving, and people know that people meet a lot of people.
Hey there, fellow podcast listeners. I'm Kevin Logan Jr., host of the Immutable Mindset Podcast. If you're fascinated by Web3, blockchain, and disruptive technology, then you won't want to miss a show. Join me and co-host Adam Posner as we introduce you to an incredible lineup of successful entrepreneurs, builders, and industry veterans who share their insider knowledge, unique perspectives, and personal stories that will leave you inspired and craving more. Like Mike Isogawa, the CEO of Webicii, who shares her journey from being a Cirque du Soleil performer to a cybersecurity pioneer. Or Dave Schwed, COO of Halborn, who discusses the future of digital asset security and how the future of assets will be tokenized. We also break down complex topics into digestible bits, perfect for both experts and newcomers to the world of Web3. So if you're ready to stay ahead of the curve, subscribe to the Immutable Mindset Podcast now, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Let's talk a little bit about your philanthropic side, Beneath the Waves. If you could share what that's all about and why it's a mission that's so close to your heart.
Yeah, Beneath the Waves is something that's very special for me. Growing up in Crenshaw, at least I went to the beach. I mean, some people I knew in my neighborhood never went to the beach. It's about 20 minutes away.
It's crazy to think that, right?
Yeah.
People that live so close to the beach and they just, for whatever reason,
don't. Yeah. But I think for me, it's that, like, when I was a kid, I was actually riding around the pool in my building. And I didn't know how to swim, and I ended up waving at a neighbor, and on my big wheel ended up in the 8 foot of the pool.
Yikes.
And all I can remember is, like, when I was starting to go down in the water, I remember seeing my mother on the second floor of the apartment building we lived in, and next thing you know, she's pulling me out of the water. That was very traumatic. It took me a couple of years before me to swim again. I actually tried surfing when I was younger, and when I was younger, I got hit over the board, almost drowned. So my relationship with the ocean was something that was not that, or water was something that I felt that it was going to be something. And 9 years ago, when I was working at the Summit Series in Utah, I met Dr. Austin Gallagher. He was telling me about his passion for oceans ever since he was a kid. He always loved sharks. And for me, sharks were things that, like, I watched on movies or TV. And it was something that, like, was very daunting for me in regards to, like, I remember the first time that I went on a boat with Dr. Gallagher. I had Dioro and our team. We were down there for Ultra, or Miami Music Week, and we went on the boat. And I remember the first time they pulled up a shark, I was completely, like, up on the second, like, level
just
of the boat.
Jumping, you're like Super Mario jumping on the top.
I was already on the top when they pulled the shark out. I couldn't believe it, because you're just literally, like, 100, 200 feet away from the shore of Miami Bay, and you're catching. We caught bull sharks, we caught a nurse shark, we even actually caught a hammerhead. So
they're out there.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's the oceans. That they own the ocean, we don't. But the beauty of it is that from that first relationship with Austin is that he also has an affiliation with music. And he knew that I worked with some artists, and the whole thing about for what I've been doing with Beneath the Waves is making sure to bring opportunities with various artists that are very passionate about nature and oceans. And I think before the pandemic, it was very difficult to kind of get the time with certain artists due to the fact is that they were touring and scheduling. But I think during the pandemic, a lot of artists kind of took the time to see what they were passionate about. One of those in particular that's always been passionate about nature and the oceans, Nora and Pure. I was able to organize that opportunity for Nora and Pure, her liquefied 300 episode, purified 300 episode. She actually did a DJ set on the back of the Tigris, the boat that we have with Beneath the
Pretty
Waves.
cool.
And it's got over like 4 million views in almost 9 months. It's actually almost a year now. And just to be able to be a part of those situations and relationships. The other artist that I got to help work with was Jaws. And it would seem like it makes sense that Jaws would be wanting to be a part of the ocean,
Right.
Which he is. But in regards to sharks, is the no bueno. But when he came out on the boat, he literally was just after the first shark we caught, he was down there and just being a part of it. And it was just a great experience to kind of see like people's eyes being opened by this experience of being on the ocean, doing ocean, like basically shark awareness in regards to tagging sharks, which has been one of the things that like the beauty about Beneath the Waves is that we caught one shark named Mabel. It's a tiger shark 3 times. One was
the same shark.
Maverick. Yeah, the same shark.
The
same shark. Yeah, and she led us to the seagrass down in the Bahamas, which is actually the biggest seagrass been found right now in the world. And that's also going to help in regards to blue carbon emissions. So for me, coming from a theater artist background and then going onto a science side has been something that's been very cool because it's like,
keeps you sharp.
It keeps you sharp. You're never like too old to learn something. Every day you should be able to learn something.
Absolutely. So let's pivot for a moment here. And I want to talk about this awesome book here that my 5-year-old son, Oliver, absolutely loves. I will get it in focus there in a second. We'll link it up there too. Malik's Magic African Alphabet Hat. And before we do, let's talk about your mom. Let's go a little bit deeper into your mom because this is fascinating. You co-wrote this with your mom, Oni. At the age of 67, got her master's, and after the age of 50, ran 13 marathons. Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about, making us feel like slackers over here.
I have to say, my mom, she is like my inspiration. It's interesting when you're working on a project with a parent, especially about a subject in regards to lost parent. I would have to say that when I went to Japan, I didn't know any Japanese. It was a year after my dad passed away, and I was teaching English from the JET program. And it kind of inspired me to figure out something I wanted to do. And I was like going, you know what? Well, travel's changed my life. I love kids. So why don't I write a children's book? And for the first 10 years of writing the children's book, I remember like always saying, oh, my book's done. I'm done. And, always putting up these Facebook posts. And 18 years later, we got the book done. My mother has been an inspiration. She's pretty much a natural poet. She's an activist. She's someone who was inspired me in so many ways. She's always wanted to give us, like, not only me, but any of our family members, the opportunity to see what the world has to offer. I mean, I remember when I was younger, she used to travel herself. And it was just one of the things that has inspired me in regards to why we made the book. The reason why we focused on Africa is because I actually lived in South Africa for 4 months. And when I lived there, it was because my name is Malik Addunni, so most people assume that I was born in Africa, but I was actually born in Los Angeles. My sisters' names are Lisa, Robin, and Malakia, and my other brother's name is Joe. So it used to be one of those kind of Joe, yeah,
and Joe,
one of those the conversation starters for a job interview. Because those people are like, "Oh, so where are you from?" I go, "Los Angeles." I go,
"But where are
your parents from?" Yeah, like New York and Texas.
Right? Like what?
Yeah, but I think it's just over time. I mean, especially with Malik, the name, it's been one of the things that like most people would associate Malik with Fife, from Tribe Called Quest, or Malik Sealy or Malik Yoba. But it actually
it's a great name.
Thank you. I mean, it means king in Swahili, but also Melech means leader in Hebrew, and Malik's a very known name around the world, just in different ways.
So speaking about around the world, this book is fantastic. Who, what? Let's switch it up a little bit. What is your favorite letter in this book and why?
I would say my favorite letter and why would basically have to be the yellowwood trees, just because I would say is that like the yellowwood trees, it has to deal with in regards to just kind of understanding about South Africa and seeing how that basically that this is the this is a national symbol of that. I mean, there's a lot of other places that people know about, but also Western Sahara, Dhaka Lagoon is one of my favorites too, because I was able to implement a few things in there in regards to Beneath the Waves. And just, I haven't been there yet, but I really look forward to going there because most people don't know that you can actually do kite surfing in Africa. That's one of the beauties of it too.
What do you want children and adults to walk away from after reading this book?
Actually, when I do sign my book, I always say dream big. And I say, I hope you enjoy the journey. And also to teach people that Africa is a continent, not a country. I think that's one of the things that
I'm only laughing. I'm only laughing because it's like something you hear all the time. Like, there's no.
Yeah. It's one of the things that from my friend's kids, actually one of my friend's kids, he's 3.5 years old, and he actually FaceTimed me. And usually when my friends' kids FaceTime me or call me, it's because my last name's Addunni, so it's usually by mistake. But my friend's
it's the first one on the phone.
Yeah, so my friend's son called me, and I was on the phone with him. And he was asking me about some things that are very hard for young adults or kids in general, is about death. And I think that's one of the things that, like, being able to address it in regards to my dad promised me to take me somewhere and unfortunately passes away is a very hard thing for some parents to talk about. But I think overall it's more about that experience, even though it's fictional in regards to this book, is when he was alive, I used to buy him hats in different countries. And when he passed away, I buried the hats in England, England, Spain, and Australia. And I just thought that was too sad of a story, but it's something that made me understand is that, with children's books and magic and being able to share these experiences, something that will just help inspire them to learn more about the world.
It's a fantastic book. My 5-year-old son loves it. We're going to link it up, the Amazon link, and check it out. This is absolutely incredible. What did you learn about yourself from writing this book? The process. Listen, you said you've been working on it for a very, very long time. So there in itself was a process. But what did you learn? Like when it was finally done, when you were able to take a breath, when you saw when you held that first bound final copy in your hand. Let's talk about that.
Well, it was the pandemic and the books were sent to my mom's house. I didn't have a copy yet. I just remember that my mom called me. She goes, there's some boxes here that just arrived. And I said, Mom, I think that's the book. And the book wasn't supposed to be there for another month in regards to with shipping and everything like that. And I was just so excited to see the book that my sister is going to FaceTime me with the book. And all I remember is I called my mom and go, how's the book? And she goes, I haven't opened the boxes yet. And I said, what? So I was completely
open the box?
Oh, it was like Christmas. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you didn't open the box. And when she did, I just remember her reading it. And I cried. I was just completely I can't believe I have this finished.
I'm proud.
We did. And the process was more or less about just understanding is that just finishing something that you believe in or you have spent the time on that you really want to create. Even it's just for me personally, we made 3,000 copies. We sold over 2,300, which has been amazing. And it was just, for me personally, you don't make a book to make money. You create a book for a legacy. And that's the one thing that I've learned about regards to how my mom, she makes scrapbooks for me and our family members. And those are the things that are cherished the most, is because those are the memories. I would say right now, these days, the most kind of buzzword right now is storytelling. I prefer the word storytelling than narrative, because I think with narrative has a negative connotation in some ways, where with storytelling is kind of where everything started. I mean, even with theater, storytelling used to be a whole opera of people. And for the first thespian to stand out from the crowd was where, in regards to theater, it kind of started on that front.
Interesting. So let's talk about what Malik is up to now. What's Gold Credentials all about?
So I started Gold Credentials about 8 years ago. Reason being is that I noticed that in regards to tour managing with various artists is that people aren't really looking at commercials anymore. And a lot of brands have been trying to figure out how they can get into to be a part of the experience. Not necessarily just putting up a banner, but more or less about what kind of stories can be created. The stories can be created through the art. It can also be created in the implementation organically with having some sort of product placement, but not really just kind of forcing it down a consumer's eyes. I think that primarily from there, it's just one of the things that for Coachella with Dioro, we launched this website during Coachella at the Sahara tent. It won a Davy Award. I was working with a company, Sociofabrica, which helped implement that. It was through T-Mobile. And a lot of it is that for me, it's just looking at brands and helping them with their storytelling in regards to their content creation, in regards to how a brand wants to be a part of something, and also for the artist as well. I think that's the one biggest thing about it. And that's why you see a lot of artists these days that are creating their own brands. Has to do with that, they like what they want, and rather than it's just something that doesn't really seem to make sense, which happens at times. But for me personally, in regards to the relationships that I have in the music industry, is really finding artists that really want to tell their story in regards to working with a particular brand. Majority of the brands I've worked with have been lifestyle brands. And from there, it's been something that, working with Beneath the Waves in regards to just trying to figure out partnerships for them in regards to working with them is something that I've been very fortunate to be a part of as well.
I love it. And what's the secret? But what's the secret behind Sir Henry Pineapple? What's the story? What's the story there, man? There he is.
Okay, so this is Sir Henry the Pineapple. This one has been to 12 countries and 50 cities in the last year. Actually, pineapples stand for hospitality. I remember when I went to Hawaii 15 years ago, and we went to the Dole plantation. I was like, where are the pineapple trees? And I'm like, well, pineapples actually grow on the ground.
They grow on the ground.
Yeah. And from there, yeah. And it's something that like pretty much pineapples has kind of been a part of my life in regards to that front. But I still work with an artist, Thomas Jack, that created Tropical House in regards to just kind of that vibe. And I think the whole thing is that, like, for me, is that like having Sir Henry with me, just like, it's kind of like an icebreaker in some ways. It's kind of like you're looking at this pineapple, you're going, what is going on? Especially because it's a disco pineapple. And, it's he's a little tattered, but I remember when I was in the Bahamas, my friend, Anthony Black, we decided to name him. And so we named him Sir Henry the Pineapple, because I think in regards to it's just like, once you name something, it has a life. It has a life and it's a story. And it's sort of like with SpongeBob. Like, I mean, he grew up in a pineapple under the sea, and that's another children's story that might be coming up soon too.
Oh, I love it. I mean, you got to have some story security, like going through your bag and being like, what the hell is this? What's inside of it? They want to crack it open, right? What are you hiding inside?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, you have that crown and being sweet on the inside, but just really just stand tall and be proud. So that's one of the things that I've always looked at in regards to just kind of my experience of my travels, or just being around humans, and just understanding that for countries where I couldn't speak the language, it could be like, now you have your phone, you have other ways, but still a smile goes a long way.
A smile goes a long way. So let's bring it home here, Malik. What would you say is your superpower? What makes you that superpower that just stands out, makes you who you are?
I would say it's just pretty much kind of just understanding is that, like, that with the life that I've lived in regards to growing up in my neighborhood, unfortunately there were a lot of gangs there, but my mom was just she actually told the gangbangers in my neighborhood, she's like, no, you're not, like, no, not him. No. And they understood, but it was one of those things that like my mom pretty much it takes a village to raise a child. And what I would say from that point is also it takes unity in the community. Last Thursday, last Thursday, Jane Fonda was speaking at the Castro Theater in regards to global climate awareness, and also about kind of Pride Festival and just everyone, and just understanding that there's a picture of me when I was like 4 years old, of me and Jane, and all I wanted to do was meet her. However, I didn't know if I was going to be able to, but fortunately enough, I was, and I actually waited out in the parking lot.
What was that like?
It reminded me.
They say never meet your heroes, right?
Well, it's just I'm so used to, like, after a show, is that, like, there's so many people out there. There's paparazzi. There's this, but then as a tour manager or someone, is that like you'll see a fan, and that fan, it just really is like myself. All I remember is I said, well, if I don't get to meet her, hopefully I can give her a copy of my book. And when she came out, the person working for the Castro Theater said, well, she has to leave immediately, because I saw her car parked there. And I just said, hey, if it's possible, I'd just like to give her a book. And when I went up to Jane, I said, hi. And she said, do you want me to sign something? I said, actually, I'd like to give you something. So I gave her a card. I gave her a picture of me when I was 4. And I said to her, I said that, and I was super nervous. And I was very nervous. And I said, I just want to thank you for the activism that you did, because the protest that my mother took me to, then it was for against Ian Douglas Smith, who used to be the Prime Minister of Rhodesia. And it's kind of interesting that experience that I don't even remember at that age, to going to South Africa and having a book about Africa seems to be intertwined about kind of the story. So I think that the whole thing about life is just pretty much going through the experiences. I feel like sometimes are good, sometimes are bad, but just as long as you can just sit there and understand that we are all here together collectively, and it's more or less about being able to listen, because along with talking, but just also just trying to be there, support for one another is something that I believe in.
Absolutely. What was Jane's response when you gave her the book and showed her the photo?
She looked at it and she said, "This is for me." And I said, "Yes, it's for you." And she said, "Well, I want to thank you." And I asked to take a picture with her, and we took a picture. And I'm sure this isn't the last time I'm going to meet Jane, but it's just a whole full circle kind of thing.
Circle.
I think and that's the beauty of it.
Man. I love when stories come full circle. So last but not least, you look back on your life. Like all of us, you've had the ups and downs, trials, tribulations, and you look back at those hard times when you had to reach down deep and harness that inner tenacity to pull you up and forward, whatever well you were in, whatever ditch you were in. On the flip side of it, Malik, when you sit here with gratitude for this life that you've created, the people that you've connected with, what you're giving back to the world, what keeps you focused? What is your beacon? Malik, what is your North Star in life?
I would say is just every day is a new day. And some days are good, some days are bad. And I did have a depression issue that happened several years ago, which kind of really woke me up in a lot of ways. I had woke up and I was paralyzed. Like, I didn't look at my phone. I didn't eat or drink. I didn't like look at anything. And I just was in my head. And I remember that was a whole day. And the next day I called my mother and I explained to her what happened. And she asked me, did I pray? I said, I prayed. But it just also just kind of showed me, which has kind of become something that is a good thing that's happening these days, is that people are addressing mental health rather than it being a stigma. I think it's one of the things that is that we do need to be able to talk to people. We need to be able to address these issues. We also need to understand that not every day is going to be a good day. It's okay to be sad. And especially as a male having emotions, is that actually, I remember on my birthday, 2020, my friend bought me a birthday cake, and I put a video up on Facebook, and I was crying. And I was crying because I had happy tears. And I remember that just because of social media, that some people didn't even look at or listen. That's why a lot of people with their posts, they put the words. But it just kind of showed me, because some people were worried about how I was feeling. But this is the first time they're seeing me during the pandemic. And it just kind of showed me is that, it's okay to show emotion, and it's okay to have bad days, but also it's okay to ask for help.
I love it, man. I love your story. I appreciate our friendship, appreciate your generosity and the good message that you're spreading around the world. Thank you so much for joining me, Malik. For everyone out there, you can check out Gold Credentials. I will link the book up to Malik's Magic African Alphabet Hat. Look it up. I'll link it up in the show notes where you could purchase it. Where else could folks find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more?
Yeah, you can find me at goldcredentials.com. Also, there's different sectors on there. Also, maliksmagichat.com. But yeah, I just really want to say thank you, and I appreciate the time and being a part of this, because it's something that, in regards to being able to tell my story, other people can tell their story too.
I love it, man. Thank you so much. And everyone out there, sharing means caring. If this episode resonated with you, leave a review, a rating. It goes a long way. You know where to find us on social media, more at thepodcast.com. Remember, be good to yourself and be better to others. Look out for one another, and we'll catch you next week for another good episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.